5G. Who hasn't heard about the technology of the future, which will soon change our lives once for all? Fully autonomous transportation, remote surgery, holographic phone calls. And that's just a tiny bit of all the solutions which 5G might result in. But these are just slogans which we hear across the media all the time. For a better understanding of this technology, we have to take a deeper look at 5G Foundation to realize how it will affect global struggle for hegemony as well as our daily lives, and why China is leading that race. Firstly, 5G is the fifth generation of wireless technology. Much of the attention goes to vastly improved data speeds, with 100 times faster data streaming or downloading performance up to 3 GB per second. Yet the real revelation here is that it will enable high capacity and ultra-low latency data communications. But what does it mean? 2G, 3G and 4G network generations were built as voice-centric networks. Unlike them, 5G is from the foundation designed to handle a huge number of devices, high data rates and software that require reliable, ultra-fast communication with minimal latency and no lags. This is all needed to fully take advantage of the opportunities 5G offers. To further investigate the topic, we need to make a distinction between network types via which 5G will be distributed to people. The infrastructure path to make 5G happen is based on two stages. The first one is non-standalone 5G infrastructure, which basically is enhanced 4G LTE mobile network, where mobile operators mostly make use of existing pieces of mobile infrastructure. As of December 2019, you may have heard that in some countries, non-standalone 5G is already rolled out as thousands of speed test videos spread across YouTube. But this phase is more evolutionary than revolutionary, although some companies may call it alike. Frankly speaking, that's a minor change. The second one is set to bring the innovation of tomorrow, and it's called, as you may expect, standalone 5G. Fully standalone 5G, as the name suggests, is separate from the existing 4G network and will require massive infrastructure investments to be built. However, it is necessary to fully utilize the technology itself. Now, when we have the infrastructure sorted out, let's have a look at the functionality of 5G, as it is divided into three essential sectors. Let's start with enhanced mobile broadband, which is related to non-standalone phase and mostly accounts for faster data communication and will result in downloading the movie in 6 seconds instead of 30 minutes. It may sound as just a convenience issue, but some estimates say that consumers may save up to a day of loading time per month, while browsing social media, gaming, streaming and uploading. And as you know, time is money. The second one is ultra-reliable, low-latency communications. It is required for applications including smart cities or autonomous vehicles with road obstacle sensing, where there is no space for any lag in communication. Here, new infrastructure, antenna designs or smaller equipment expenditures are a must, as communication capacity needs to be closer to roads and buildings. The last one is massive machine-to-machine communications, which is aimed to maintain communication between devices, which is also described as Internet of Things. It basically means that it is designed to handle the data transfer between billions of sensors, which appliances consist of. I'm sorry for this long introduction, but I think it is really important to get the notion of the technology which will surround us in the upcoming years. Okay, what is the situation now and what can we expect in the near future? As I've mentioned, Many countries carry out some tests in certain cities with non-standalone 5G mostly. But there is one country which seems to be a little bit ahead of the rest of the world. And there will be no surprise when I say it is China. Assuming that it is beginning of this channel, and for those who have been hibernated for the last 40 years, I will point out that China is the new superpower openly challenging the US hegemony status over the world, with economy 54 times larger than it was when you started your 40-year-long nap. Its nominal GDP is second only to that of the USA, but measured with purchasing power parity, it is already the biggest in the world. Welcome to 2020. Okay, now we are truly back to the 5G topic. China is the first country to fully accelerate the 5G technology. It was expected that the Chinese will open 130,000 initial 5G base stations covering main cities such as Beijing, Shanghai and Shenzhen by the end of 2019, with a cost of $43 billion. 126,000 stations have been confirmed open by the 23rd of December 2019. It's still a drop in the ocean, as fully operational 5G system in China will require 5.5 million base stations, which by the way is nearly 2 million more than the existing 4G network. But still, it's miles ahead than in any other place in the world. Yet we are still talking about this non-standalone enhanced mobile broadband phase. Commercial non-standalone 5G will be also available in certain cities of the US, EU, South Korea or Australia, so why all the fuss? The scale is important here. The Chinese, having a larger infrastructure base, are able to collect more data and learn technology on regular basis, which is kind of a puzzle for everyone. Another key element here is that China wants to launch the first deployment of commercial 5G standalone network with full functionality in 2020, which is again ahead of the competition. Ernst & Young forecasts that there will be 576 million 5G users in China by 2025, while CCS Insight predicts 1 billion users worldwide by 2023, with half of them being Chinese. But how did it happen? Well, it's good old Chinese planning and money, of course. Back in 2013, Beijing major national institutions such as Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, the National Development and Reform Commission, and the Ministry of Science and Technology established the IMT 2020 5G Promotion Group, its main goal being to push all government, all industry alliance on 5G. With the Communist Party of China's blessing, we could suddenly see all of the key parties involved in the project, namely major research institutes, Beijing University of Posts and Telecommunications, Chinese operators such as China Mobile, China Telecom and China Unicom, infrastructure equipment makers, Huawei and ZTE, and mobile device makers, Oppo, Vivo, Huawei, ZTE. This even goes beyond entities directly involved in 5G. For example, there was a fear that smaller Chinese mobile operators such as China Unicom won't have enough financial capacity to handle 5G implementation. When suddenly Chinese online platforms such as Baidu, Alibaba, Tencent and JD came and said there is nothing to worry about and acquired stakes in China Unicom that amount to nearly $12 billion. What's more, all of China's major technology plans and strategies, including Made in China 2025, prioritize development of 5G technologies and related sectors such as Internet of Things, Big Data, AI, semiconductors and advanced manufacturing. And that's not all, because it is patents that seem to be sealing China's 5G leadership. You see, we are on the verge of establishing international standards that 5G will be governed by. This process included granting patents which will give their owners both protection from possible lawsuits and obviously profits from licensing to other users. This process is overseen by the Third Generation Partnership Project and International Telecommunications Union. Patents in the telecom industry are called standard essential patents. Since the process isn't transparent, we don't know how many SEPs each company has, but estimates say that Chinese firms had 0% in 2G technology, which was dominated by Qualcomm, Nortel, Ericsson and Nokia. In 3G, Three Chinese companies, ZTE, Huawei and Datang, had a share of 10%, as it was still dominated by previously mentioned American and European giants. The 4G has already brought a big shift. Still, Qualcomm took the biggest share, as it was mainly their invention, but Chinese companies' share in aggregate accounted for 22% of 4G SEP, which nationwide gave them the leading position. And now comes 5G. According to CSLA, Huawei alone claimed 35% of the standard essential patents, followed by LG, Samsung and ZTE. Overall, China claims more than half of the 5G patents, with South Korean entities coming second with 35%. But claiming isn't owning. The problem with Chinese patents is that a big part of them have not yet been fully granted, and final outcome might be less impressive than Communist Party expects. But nonetheless, there is no doubt that license payments will now mostly fly from the USA and Europe to China and South Korea. That seemed unrealistic just a couple of years back. And this may explain some of the panic 5G causes mostly in the US. But hey, some of you would say now that I'm missing security threats that USA puts so much emphasis on. Excluding Huawei is an example of this attitude. And you would be right. Every company which competes in 5G technology has the potential of going beyond the standards, which could include hardware implants or malicious software. An exponential expansion of the volume of data flying around will make it more difficult to detect malicious traffic. The huge growth in the number of connected devices and large bandwidths means that the potential for unsecure or compromised devices to be used for malicious activities such as botnet-driven denial of service attacks goes way up, as does their size and severity. This is what concerns the US national security community and leads to legislative and executive measures that would block Chinese firms from building 5G core infrastructure in the USA. The same uncertainty about Chinese intentions is experienced by European countries which are in the middle of the US-China struggle for hegemony. 5G decisions in Germany, the UK, France, Italy in the upcoming months may leverage the final outcome of this battle. The last key element to 5G is the spectrum. You see, 5G has much broader and complex spectrum allocation than 4G. 5G is set to use frequency up to 95 GHz. This is also the point where all the health issues arise, but I have to leave it to others. Anyway, such a complex spectrum leaves a lot of space which exact spectrum to choose, as it has to be defined the same for each place in the world to work on each mobile device. Well, at least this is my expectation as a traveling consumer, but it doesn't necessarily have to go that way. You see, this is the next 5G battlefield, as China opts to use lower frequencies while the USA wants to operate in the higher spectrum, mostly because low-frequency bands are allocated for the military use in the USA. What's unfortunate for the US government, American giants such as Apple, Microsoft, Facebook and Google also look favorably at lower frequencies. Latest reports say that US military should release its 5G spectrum to the private sector. Here we come back to China's first mover advantage, as Beijing started heavily with the implementation of 5G with the spectrum of its choice, which is maybe kind of a gamble as it's not agreed on yet. But on the other hand, it is another milestone strengthening China's fundamental position in the 5G field, possibly convincing countries which have not proclaimed their position on the matter. As we are heading towards the end of this material, let's think of the possible outcome. Certainly, having an upper hand in commercial 5G network will give China leverage to innovate and manufacture 5G-related technologies, which will help Beijing fulfill its plan of transforming Chinese economy from the one which makes products by using other companies' patents to the one developing fully owned Chinese technology. China is on its way to take advantage of 5G by creating such project and technological environments to maximize productivity. China Academy of Information and Communications Technology estimates that 5G market could account for $156 billion or 3.2% of mainland China's economic growth in 2025. On the other hand, while boosting its own 5G development, China may struggle to convince other Western governments to fully open their markets for 5G technology, not only because of the pressure coming from the USA. At the same time, developing countries that are more sensitive to cost will find Chinese technology and related enticements, for example, infrastructure and project financing available through the Belt and Road Initiative, hard to pass up, particularly if China gains an edge in the related technology applications. Certainly, we will monitor the situation of 5G development across the world and update this material with another 5G video in the future. If you'd like to know more about Nord Stream 2 case, I invite you to watch the first episode, which you can find on Good Times Bad Times channel. For now, a big help would be subscribing to our channel and pressing thumbs up button, which you can find below. Thank you very much for your attention and have a good day.